Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Make Life Dope. And today, I'm here with Dariany, and the tables have kind of turned a little bit. Last night, I was at her restaurant, stuffing my face, and we wound up doing an interview about her and how she got into the restaurant business, and also, went into some detail about like the other things that she does. Today, we're gonna switch it up, and it's actually gonna be about me.
So I'm here to run the show from now on. I'm going to be asking Abiel questions because he obviously is an entrepreneur and a very interesting person as well. So let's start. Where are we right now? This is what showroom?
So we're at my showroom, and this is the Maxima Apparel showroom, and this particular section is for my brand, Vie-Riche, and there's 3 brands out of here. Currently, there's going to be actually some more this year that we're working on, but currently we're operating 3 brands. One of them is Vie-Riche. The other one is Black Pyramid, which is Chris Brown's line. And the third would be Hudson, which is owned by the owner of the licensing company, which you would have seen in my China video that I would have uploaded about a day ago.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. So I've known you for a while.
Yeah.
But I've known you in so many different capacities because I've known you as a photographer and obviously as a designer and like a spray paint artist and just an artist in general. So
yeah, so funny coincidence, background about us. We probably followed each other, I don't know, 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think we intended to work together at a point when I was like heavy doing photography and you were heavy doing modeling. But I think maybe we never got to link up. And then fast forward, when I started this brand, my financial partner, one of my 2 financial partners at the time, his name is Anthony, is actually cousins, right?
yeah.
Cousins with Dariany. So we wound up actually linking up after the fact through just like what, you came to a trade show or something? Was that the first
I
time?
worked a trade show for you guys and also we shot like one
That's
of
right.
Vie-Riche's earliest campaigns. Make sure you
'cause
put a picture of that here.
We
'cause
did
it's
women's
like,
also in the beginning a little bit. And,
Yeah.
But I actually shot you in the men's stuff.
That's true.
So that's our history. That's how we became acquainted. But anyway.
Fun fact, I'm wearing some of their newest men's collection right now.
This is our hottest item right now.
I love it. And that's what's really dope about this brand, just a side note, is it really can be, worn by women too.
Yep.
But anyway, so we've known each other for a long time. How did you get to where you are right now as a person who is in charge of so many great brands?
Well, that's actually a really long story, but I'll try to be as brief as possible, and I'll start from the beginning. So I got my start in the industry almost like by accident. Not really by accident, but almost by accident. So my partner with this brand, Fausto, shout out to him because he's probably out there getting orders as we speak. But him and I met through some mutual friends back in 2002, I'm gonna say, and we were introduced because at the time airbrushing was hot, and I was airbrushing from home, and I was going to college full time, taking up graphic design. And I was airbrushing from my home because I was a graffiti artist growing up, and I was too scared to like continue to vandalize the streets. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick up an airbrush kit and I'm just gonna start putting graffiti on clothes. So I was doing that from home for some time, and about a year into that, one of my best friend's friend reached out to me, and he told me that this kid named Fausto was looking to like open up a shop in the Bronx, and he was looking for an airbrush artist. So we linked up, and we had like an hour-long conversation about like what his idea was and what he wanted to do. And literally the next day I went and quit my job, and we started working together.
So you and Fausto linked up through airbrushing.
Right. So
I
it
didn't know that.
wasn't fashion yet.
I didn't know that. And then obviously it transpired to you guys having what, a now 10-year, 15-year long relationship together?
It's been about 13, 14 years now.
Cool. Okay, so you and Fausto met through airbrushing, but then how did this relationship, this partnership develop into the world of fashion?
So we worked together for about 3 months at our spot, but the problem was that our business was based off of a high school that was close by, Lehman High School in the Bronx. And once school was out in the summertime, we literally lost like 90% of our business. So we kind of started struggling, and we wound up shutting down that shop. But what happened after that was I continued to airbrush at different locations, and he went on to do his own thing. And maybe a year and some change later, he hits me up out of nowhere, and he's like, yo, I want to talk to you about something. And he comes to me, and he's like, yo, I want to start a clothing brand. And I was like, okay. So he's like, yeah, I got a bunch of ideas, but I don't have any artistic skills. So since I was obviously artistically inclined, it kind of made sense. So at the time, one of my homies, his name was Danny, He's still one of my homies. He was airbrushing with me, and on our downtime, he was always sketching like clothing stuff. And when Fausto and I linked up, and this girl named Angie also that Fausto was working with, I was like, yo, why don't I bring my boy Danny into the picture, because he already has a bunch of designs and it'll save us a bunch of time. So the next day I went and spoke to Danny about it, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So all four of us got together and we created our first brand, which is called La Vie. And that's a story in itself, which I'm not going to get into now because it'll literally take us a couple of hours for me to go through that. But we basically ran that for about 9 years. We had a partnership with some Indian people that formulated maybe 3.5 years after we started that brand, and that lasted for about 4 years. Actually, no, it was a little bit later. It might have been like 4.5 years after we started, if I'm not mistaken. But that partnership lasted about 4 years, and that brand finally dissolved in 2013. And then
okay, but let's talk about Vie-Riche. That's why we're here.
Right.
What was like the big break for you? Because I know in the beginning there's so much hustling, there's so much dreaming. What was like the big break that kind of took you to where you are right now?
Well, we started the brand in 2013, and about a year later, after us doing it on our own with the help of Anthony and Josh, who were our financial backers at the time, we kind of hit a brick wall. And when I say that, what I mean by that is that we kind of exhausted our capabilities at the time. It was just us four. We didn't have like a real infrastructure. We were kind of like outsourcing everything and doing everything on our own. And we had a very like difficult time getting to the next step. We grew the brand literally within like 3 months. We were in over 100 doors. Our third delivery was, I don't know, we shipped something like $250,000 worth of clothing, which we did on our own,
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it got to the point where now you had to like invest more money into the future deliveries, and it gets challenging. So thankfully, we had two friends that worked for this company, and we were interested in this company because
and when you say this company, you
Maxima.
mean Maxima, which is the umbrella that
Yes.
holds all this stuff.
At the time, Maxima was like really on the cutting edge of like fast fashion. So Maxima is very unique because we incorporate like Zara's speed motto, but we do it in the urban space, which is really cool. And we have like very little competition in this space when it comes to speed. I'm gonna say no competition, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so we sat down with the owner. We got to sit down through one of our friends, and thankfully there was a mutual interest because he was looking for a brand that was a little bit of a higher caliber, as Vie-Riche is. And it was kind of like a perfect marriage. And I think that was kind of like the first turning point, because I think there were two turning points for our brand. That was the first turning point because now we have an infrastructure in place. Financing is not an issue, and the capabilities here were great. So it kind of took us from point A to point B, right? But then you got to point B, and now it's like, all right, how do you get to the next level? So sometime in 2015. We kind of had like another transition, and this house was actually, it was like 10 brands in this house at the time. It was a zoo in here, but what happened was they started like getting rid of the brands that weren't performing too well, and we were actually one of them. But everybody jumped on my partner's neck, and they were like, "You cut the cord too early. This brand has too much potential. Like, what are you doing?" So a month later, we were back in house. So I think at that point, I don't know what happened, but like the market just like it started really responding to our brand, and our sales started to like really show. And thank you, Fausto, who like went out there and did his thing at that time. Really took like the sales to the next level, and like at that point we really kind of like established ourselves in the market, and like things started to pay off little by little. And like over the course of the last, I'm gonna say 1.5 years, the brand has grown like tremendously. We're probably 3 times bigger than what we were our first year at Maxima. We're 3 times bigger now. We're growing. So
it's so funny because I just came from lunch and I was watching TV, and the music video that was playing, somebody was wearing your brand, which happens all the time.
Yeah.
Celebrities wear your brands all the time.
Right. They, especially in the Spanish culture.
Oh yeah.
We're like they call us like the Versace of the of the the Spanish rap culture.
But I mean, you work with a lot of celebrities, and a lot of celebrities, they respond very well to your brand. Is there a celebrity that you like aspire to dress one day?
I don't know. That's a kind of a tough question. Nowadays, you know what's crazy? Nowadays, I'm not so like adamant about celebrities wearing my stuff. Like, it's great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
like, I'm highly thankful that it happens. But we've literally had like, with the exception of like Kanye, but like everybody's worn our stuff at some point. But nowadays, we live in an era where like social media is so impactful that like you have these influencers that actually have more influencing power than a lot of celebrities, and a lot of them are like known for fashion. So if you ask me, I would rather, if I had to pick somebody, it would probably be like one of those like Instagram celebrity icons, like your Ian Connors of the world, or one of those guys. Like, I would love to see him in my brand. I think it'll have a much more like direct impact on like our society.
Now, although you've garnered a lot of success with this brand, is this the end for you? What is like your goal in the next?
Not at all, man. I've been in this industry for about 13 years now, and I think I will continue to do this for a long time. But I'm ready for the next thing, and I got a couple of things up my sleeve that I've been working on. I've hinted a couple of times through my Instagram, but I think technology is the next big thing. Like, technology, I'm now more than ever, I'm like very excited about like creating product that can like really impact humans. I'm all about like impacting humans these days. If you've been following me on Instagram, you would know that like I'm consistently posting content, information. Like, I'm just all about giving back, and I've been working on something silently for the last couple of years, and it's going to be for the fashion industry specifically, but it's going to be a game changer, and I think it's going to bring forth a very useful tool for the culture, and I'm super, super excited about that. And it's like, we're like this close to launching, like an official launch, because I actually have an app on the App Store, which you can learn more about if you hit me up and ask me. But yeah, I think the next step for me is going to be, I'm hoping that in the near future I can kind of like structure my my work environment so that I get a little bit more support from the design end, so that I can put a little bit more energy into like these other things that I'm really excited about. And it kind of goes hand in hand, so it's kind of like a perfect thing. But I think it's gonna be interesting.
We're here for a reason. This brand is successful, and I think that people can really learn something from you in terms of how dedicated you've been to make it be what it is right now. What can people take away from your success specifically with Vie-Riche?
I think with us, the key to our success, and our success is relatively small for us, because we're very aspirational. But I think to get to the point where we are today, I think the main key has been consistency and just not giving up. Like, we literally didn't stop. Like, we literally just started reaping the benefits of all this work, I'm gonna say, a year ago. And we've been doing this for 13 years. So I think if I had to kind of like put it into one sentence, it would be, if you're gonna get into something, don't do it for the money. Like, don't do it for material shit. Like, do it because it's what your passion is, and pursue it solely for that. Like, you do that, and you don't put like a time limitation or estimate, because I don't know if you ever seen that like meme on the internet where it's like, it's one guy chipping away, like, and then there's another guy below him chipping away, and the guy's like 2 inches away from like where the diamond is or something, or the money, and then the other guy gets the guy gives up like 2 inches from like the achieving the prize. Like, sometimes some people give up like right before they're meant to make it, and it can happen at any time, because I'm gonna say that aside from hard work, one thing that contributes is having a little bit of luck.
Yeah, for sure.
And you kind of need that. And that's all about, and by luck, I mean like just being in the right situation, the right place, knowing the right people at the right time. There's like a perfect timing for everything. I think it had to take this long for us to get here. For some people, it takes less time. For us, I don't think we were prepared to be at this point 5 years ago. So it's all about timing. And you have to be willing to put in the work indefinitely until you get there. So that's my, if I had to give one advice, it would have to be that.
It feels like a lot of people have brands and want to start brands. What would you say was your biggest challenge, or is your biggest challenge?
I think the challenges come in stages, but I think our biggest challenge for the majority of the time of being in this industry was infrastructure. I think infrastructure is the most important asset of a successful apparel company. I've seen a lot of companies come and go, and the majority of the time, it's either one of two things. Either one, they start putting out good product, or two, something goes wrong in their infrastructure. That is probably the most difficult thing to attain. And it took us a really long time for us to understand that. It wasn't until we partnered up with this company that we really valued the importance of infrastructure, because we thought we could do it on our own. And it's very, very, very hard, because there's so many different moving components when it comes to this business. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why, like, not to jump around, but like a lot of people, send me DMs, or even in person, I meet people sometimes, and they're like, I want to start a brand. Yo, like, how do I start? What do I do? Like, I got this name, or I'm working on these designs. What do you think? And the first thing that I tell them, I'm like, not to burst your bubble, but I think you should work in the industry first.
Yeah.
And learn the ropes before you decide you want to start a brand. This is literally one of the most intricate businesses you can get into. Like, it's super intricate. There's so many moving parts. Like, this company alone, just for 3 brands, we literally have about 140 employees, and we're not even like your
Polo or,
we're not Polo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, these are 3 in the fashion world. We're like this big, and we require 140 employees. We have offices in China. We have an office here. We have, like, an immense sales team. Like, before you put on an item, like, know that it went through the hands of like 100 and some people before you actually put this thing on. It's not simple at all.
In other words, it takes more than just like being creative and having a dream.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue that creative people have sometimes, is they have wonderful ideas and they have all this drive, but at the end of the day, it is still a business. So you have to be business savvy and knowledgeable on what you want to do in order to thrive.
And there's so many resources out there. Like, it's not only about getting, experience in the industry, which is literally the most important part, but like the internet, like literally 90% of my skill sets that I know today, I learned on the internet and through trial and error. Like, that's like, I'm one to barely ever hit anybody up like, yo, how do you do this? Like, we have Google. Like, you have information at your fingertips in an instant. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things to be learned. Like, if you want to become a designer, the first thing that I encourage you to do is learn Photoshop and Illustrator. It's the industry standard. Mm-hmm. Like, you cannot get a design job if you don't know these 2 programs. Like, so whatever you do, go and take a course. It only costs a couple $100, or you can literally watch YouTube videos and learn. Like, learn the basic tools, and then you can figure out how to convert that into CADs and design clothing. Mm-hmm. It's not that hard. And then get a job in the industry. Go intern. Put some time into that and really learn what it takes to run a business like this, because it's literally a lot.
I think one of the most exciting things that you now do is you're creative director,
design director
of Black Pyramid, which
for Maxima itself.
For Maxima itself, and of course they now have Chris Brown's brand, Black Pyramid. Initially, when you came here, Maxima didn't have Chris Brown's brand. No. Now they do. How did that start? How did that whole relationship develop?
So sometime in 2000, I think it took about a year for that to happen, but it effectuated 3rd quarter of 2015. And when they inked the deal, I was not the design director at the time. I was only working on my brand. And initially, the owner of the company asked me for help with Hudson. Hudson was going through a little bit of like trouble in the market, and he was very fond of what I was doing with my brand. And he was like, I could really use your help to, add some of your unique taste to Hudson and see how that works. So at the time, I kind of knew about like the Chris Brown thing was brewing up, and I took on the opportunity to help him with Hudson, and then a couple months later they inked the deal with Chris. So I wasn't part of that whole ordeal, but what happened was the reason why I got involved, or how I got involved, was I was in LA at the time, and the owner asked me if I can come to the first meeting, and I was like, sure. So anyway, we wound up meeting with Chris in LA, and we had our first meeting, and it went very well. And right after that, we wound up flying to China to work on the first collection. And at the time, there was, there wasn't a person that was dedicated. We had this one guy freelancing for us, but there wasn't somebody that was like full on dedicated to the brand. And since I was already in China, I was like, all right, so might as well work on it. So I wound up building out the first 2 collections for the company while in China. I was out there for 3 weeks. And then when I got back, I was like by default fully involved in the process. So shortly after that, they gave me the design director role because I was already working on all 3 brands. So it just made sense. That's how I landed that.
Okay, but I think there's such a level of, it's the difference of working with someone like Chris Brown. Were you like nervous? Does it kind of change how you feel designing? Because it's like, you need to make this person happy.
I don't think I was nervous, but I kind of had like certain expectations. And it's been great working with him, honestly. It's been lots of ups and downs, as you may know, but it's been good because he has a very creative like mindset, and he's very hands-on with the brand, which is great because sometimes you work with, or I've heard stories about like people that work with celebrity brands and like they don't really know what they want. So you have to like sit here and like try to like, pitch them things that they may or may not like. With Chris, we have a process with him where like we first shoot around like concepts. He gives us concepts and we kind of like bounce things off of him, and we bounce things off each other, and it's a really good relationship that works.
So you've been in the fashion industry for a while now. If you had to give 3 tips to make it in this industry, what would it be?
Well, like I said earlier, the main thing and the biggest challenge is infrastructure. So going into this, I think you should tell yourself, do you want to be... All right, one of the first advices that we got when we got into this industry was, do you want a small piece of a big pie, or do you want a big piece of a small pie? And initially, we spent 9 years trying to take a big piece of a small pie, and it didn't work for us. And going into this situation, we definitely took a smaller piece of a big pie. But to me, that's the best way to do it, because it's less liability for you as a creative, and it also allows you to hone in on where you're best at. Whereas when you're doing everything yourself, like you thin yourself out, and it can like negatively affect your business. So I think you need to choose which path you want to take. That's number 1. Number 2 is consistency. You're only as good as the product you put out tomorrow. So like, you stop delivering good product, you're gonna fail. And number 3 is deliver good product, because that's the name of the game, especially this day and age. Like with technology, like social media, like the market is so fast that like unless you have really good product, like it's hard to compete out here in this market, especially against us.
So you don't only do this, obviously. You just came out with your blog/vlog, hence why we're here. What made you want to do that?
So Make Life Dope is a passion project for me, and it's funny because just yesterday I hit up this friend of mine named Nadine. About 2 years ago, like I used to not read. Like the only thing that I used to read was like when I went on blogs. I never picked up not never, like it was hard for me to pick up a book and read. And one time, like a friend of mine, we were talking about life and stuff, and I was telling her about work, and she was like, "Oh my God, you need to read this book." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "The 4-Hour Work Week. It's literally your life." I'm like, "Okay." So like I picked up the book, and I read it, and my life changed. And since then, that was about 2 years ago, like I've continued to read more books, and I just have this whole new perspective of life, and I've learned so much in the past 2 years that like just recently, some months back, like I read this book called Serve No Master, where it hones in on how to use the internet to like create passive income and stuff of that nature, and really practice the art of giving back without expecting anything in return. And that resonated with me, so I decided to start a blog and YouTube channel. And the idea behind that was, I guess, there was a double incentive. One of them is the fact that I love to travel, and I thought to myself, all right, if I write about things that I do with my life that I think a lot of people can learn from, I can also eventually somehow like monetize it or figure out a way to like get sponsorships to like go on trips because I love to travel. So that was like my first incentive in doing it. But now I'm just like fully immersed in like impacting people because since I started my blog, like people hit me up on a daily basis through Instagram, through Facebook, and they're like you know, they thank me for like sharing something that like literally sparked a change in them, and like impacting people's lives is like such an amazing thing. And I feel like, you know, us as humans, like unless we're doing that, like we're depriving ourselves from like daily blessings. And there's nothing more gratifying like helping somebody else, in my opinion. So like that's the reason why I started Make Life Dope. And you know, all the content that I put on there is like something that like it just has to do with my life and all the things that I do between work, you know, travel, you know, whatever it is. Whenever I find something interesting to share, or I just have the spark to share something, I do it through my blog, and that's why I started that. So I hope you guys that are watching, you guys can subscribe to my channel so that you can continue to like, you know, appreciate the content that I put out.
So if you're not like me, who knows too much about Abiel and want to learn more about you, your brand, the blog, the vlog, where can we find more of you?
Well, my personal Instagram is at Abiel Ruiz, ABIEL RUIZ. I'll put all the links below this video, but Abiel Ruiz is my personal. Vie-Riche Paris is my brand. Black Pyramid Official is Black Pyramid. Hudson, I think it's Hudson Outerwear. It's for Hudson.
It'll be here. It's fine.
And makealifedope.com, needleapp.com if you want to find out more about
Your upcoming app.
yes. And I think that's about it. Oh, and abielruiz.com if you want to see my photography and art, which I also do. Or you can just browse through my Instagram. I put all my work on there. Okay. And that's about it. So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And stay tuned for the next interview.